So we're here today with Michael Costa, leading trainer in the UAE for season 23-24. Michael, thank you for having us here in Jebel Ali Stables. Lovely to see you. How has the season been for you so far?
It's been a great second season, and it's got a nice little ring to it, leading trainer of the UAE, considering it's only my second year here in the UAE as well. So when I took the role, year one was about getting here and sifting through all the horses and putting our own systems in place with the staff that we already had. And year two was about getting back Dubai dominance and getting the stable back to a force to be reckoned with. So to be leading the premiership at the back end of the season, it's been, I always thought we'd take a quantum leap forward, but to do that in this short period of time, knowing what's coming with the yearlings that we've purchased, I think the best is definitely yet to come.
Yet to come, yeah.
Yeah, this season we had roughly 60 horses in work, so that was a nice number, as I said before, that we really just sifted through what was here when I arrived. And year two, we had a little bit of an overlap from year one horses that didn't quite get to racing. So it would be year three and four where we have a complete blank canvas of the horses which I've started to purchase as yearlings, filter through to older horses. So we've got 81 boxes here, and the goal will be for this next season will be to have a full capacity and to be at full strength at 81 horses next season.
That's great. That's a sizable operation, and I can imagine that probably commands a strong team, well organized. So how have you found coming into the stable and taking on the team and bringing on new team members, professional jockeys, work riders? I'd imagine you've got a strong team behind you.
Yeah, I was very lucky with the team that was already here. It was the one thing that could have really, hamstrung me into training the horses the way we wanted if we didn't have a team to support your ideas, because really as a trainer of a stable of this size, you're more not so much as hands-on as you would with a smaller team. You're more of an you're directing, you're managing your staff as much as your horses as well. So I was very lucky that the team was already here, was very skilled. They were very welcoming to myself, my family, and it's been a seamless response. They welcomed me with open arms, and it's been one of the reasons why we've been able to hit the ground running, is because we've had such talented staff. They're some of the best work riders I've ever seen in the world. I brought one staff member over from Australia who was a key partner in Australia. And then recently we've had Joanne Taylor join us as an assistant trainer, who was one of the assistants to Chris Waller in Australia. So whilst the horse and bloodstocks is strengthening, our team behind the scenes also is strengthening as well.
That's great. And I definitely see that you've had the success with the results that show for it as well over the last season. Yeah,
definitely. It's the team is such an important thing for a trainer, and you've got to have the right people on the bus to be able to train the horses the way you want. So, and that comes down just to doing the basics extremely well and having the staff to carry out those roles. Well, it probably depends on the size of your stable. The size that we have now, it's definitely would be staff, but I think just doing the basics extremely well, feeding the best way you can. The hay and the feed is just so important, and then just looking for the 1%ers around the basics and doing that well, having the greatest track work riders, the greatest grooms, and that would be the most important thing, doing the basics to the greatest you can.
So you're coming up to Dubai World Cup soon. I see you've got Bill Hale in the sprint, and then you've got Munhib as well. What expectations do you have for them?
Both horses are in great order. We couldn't be happier with the way they are physically. They work this week, so they're ready to run. So we're excited to get to the races, and both horses are very happy as well. So we're ready to get to the race on Saturday night.
Good luck with that, and we're excited for you. Looking forward to that.
I grew up in Western Sydney in Australia, which is a very horse-dense, populated area in Australia. But I didn't have any family ties in racing horses or anything, so it was just a strange situation. As a kid, I had an obsession with horses, and just obsessed over it from as long as I could remember. So the dream was to be a jockey when I was younger, as I was riding, but as I grew too big, that dream shifted to becoming sort of the next best thing, which was a trainer. And went and did my apprenticeship for riding from different stables. I went and became a steward, as a racing steward for 4 and a bit years. I studied and then went out on my own roughly about 14 years ago with one tried horse, and I had one horse in training for pretty much my whole first year.
Right.
And it was a very slow grind and a slog, but we just treated every horse which entered the stable as a Group 1 horse, tried to get the greatest out of every horse and tried to add value as much as possible to every client that entered the stable. And slowly but surely the compound interest began to build and gather momentum. And before I left Australia to come to the UAE, we developed the stable into having close to 1,000 owners, 120 horses, and the best winning strike rate in the country. So it was hard, but now it shows that it was a worthwhile fight.
That's a remarkable journey.
Well, life's very different in Jebel Ali compared to Australia. In Australia, as a trainer, you've got to wear many hats, and we're racing pretty much every day of the year. Where here, Jebel Ali, I get to really focus on training the horses, and the day kicks off. Our first lot heads out on 5:30 in the morning. I'm very lucky to have a string of 14 riders. So in Australia, we'd be riding 10 to 15 horses per rider, but here we're riding 4 to 5 lots out. So from 5:30 onwards, we'll do our string of horses, and we'll work through the morning, depending on the day, what we're doing, whether we're doing trot ups, weights. We do a lot of schooling as well, as in over the jumps and grass pens and different sort of activities to stimulate the horse's mind. So it depends on the day of training. And then during the day, we'll have depending on how much office work we've just got to tidy up in preparation for the next day's training with any sort of tweaks and pivots. And then we'll either be off to the races here on a day, or a lot of night racing as well. So generally there's a bit to do, but it's very enjoyable.
That's great. And then would you say, moving across here, was there a lot of changes that you had to make in terms of racing techniques? Jebel Ali is a different track, more right-handed. You've got the hill. Was there much of a change coming from Australia in terms of how you had to adapt in your training methods?
Yeah, there is. With the dirt racing in Australia, I knew exactly if I gave a horse 2 trials where I'd be at in their first run. We could go to a race and think, this horse has got 20% improvement, but I'll get away with the race. Whereas the dirt racing here, the horses have to be very close to the mark and in their fitness for their first up runs, because there's really nowhere to hide on the dirt. It's very... the pace is strong here in the UAE. The dirt is, they've got to be fit to get through it. So the fundamentals are the same to win a race. You need a horse to be fit and well, but it is further along the spectrum in how fit they need to be, even to their first up run, is the major sort of focus with the dirt racing.
You've adapted very quickly, I must say. Yeah.
Still learning, you know. There's, I think I've learnt more in the second year, even learning the first with not just training, but all capers around, managing the stable, from the handicapping to the placement of horses, the training between Meydan and Jebel Ali, how horses respond to the different tracks. So that's the beauty of it. We keep learning and keep improving. Yeah, well, the dirt racing is very different to the turf, but being travelled around the world and being to Keeneland and then US sales a lot now, horses all come in different shapes and sizes. There's no exact rule, but we still have the model of the horse that we look for, and the bottom line is it's about getting from A to B the quickest. So one of the things about, I guess, developing a horse is that being able to give the horse time if the horse needs time. Attributes they have, plenty of people have the textbook of they look for certain things in horses, but taking that further and having that connection with the horse, I think that's something that I look for as well. Going to the sales is seeing if that horse and you have got that connection. So it might sound a little bit airy-fairy, but I think that is half the battle as well, as having a horse which is going to be happy in the stable, because happy horses win races. Not really. So we're more we've been buying. So predominantly UAE trainers will buy breeze up horses and form horses, and we've changed that approach to buying more yearlings. And first, when we approach the yearling sales, it's just to pick out the best physicals. And sometimes we actually hope that they've got somewhat less pedigree, because once the pedigree page fills up, that's when the extra money comes along to purchase those horses. So look, we wouldn't be purchasing horses out of stallions which have really had their chance, but we're happy to take a punt on a great physical.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how some of those yearlings you bought come along, actually, because they'll be racing come next year, isn't it?
Well, we actually purchased 10 from the Keeneland sale last year, which have arrived this year, and one of the key horses there is a horse called Maryatel, who's by a stallion called Flame Away, who's not a hugely, he's not a justifier. I think his service fee's very cheap. But Mayatel's come, he's an unbeaten 2-3-year-old and was the highest rated 2-year-old ever in the UAE, and he was purchased for a couple of $100,000 under the average of the sales. So we haven't actually purchased many horses out of Book 1, but now we've tried and tested the model, we'll look to take it and really double down on the yearling sales at Keeneland moving forward.
Very interesting model, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. So depending on the horse, say if it's a sprinter, stayer, middle distance horse, we've got a basic model around how we generally train each horse, and then it depends on just having your finger on the pulse on how far you're going to take it to either side of the spectrum. Some of the sprinters would be doing hardly any work on it. Some would need just that little bit more work. So it's just finger on the pulse and starting with your basic model and tweaking and pivot based on how the horse is, recovering with its work, how it's displaying, and really just tailoring it to each individual horse.
I'm sure you must have many achievements that you've had over the years, but what's your most memorable one? And I'd say, what's your favourite horse or your memorable horse, I'd say, that you've had in this stable or previously?
Probably the most memorable, I wouldn't say memorable, a win which was very special was a race in Australia, the Grafton Cup. Right. So I lived in Grafton for a year, and it's a very big racing town. It's one of the biggest country racing carnivals in Australia. It's a huge event. And living there for a year, it became like a hometown, and I purchased a filly for 16,000 Australian, and she went on to win the race, and to win the race and be in the town and have the whole town there at the night festival after you won the big race and having close friends in the syndicate as well was a very special win. It was like a hometown grand final, so that was one that's always been a special racing day. Right.
What was the name of the horse?
Perfect Deal.
Okay. Yeah. Lovely name. Suits it.
One of the things from being from Australia is the conditions book of being close to 5 months compared to the 12 months of racing. So that was something definitely to adjust to, because in Australia we did a lot of form and we were very focused on finding the right race for each horse and placement. Whereas here, there's not as many options. If you've got a horse which is in that handicap, and your horse as well, you've got to just about run, because there might not be another race for you in weeks and weeks or potentially months or on the right track that you want. So that's probably been the biggest challenge. And then the other thing that comes with that is, because the condition book is set in that way, it's been about turning the horses on and off between races. If you don't have another race available for 6 or 8 weeks, about switching them on and then getting them to peak multiple times throughout the season it's been something that's been really made me focus on that pinpoint training.
I'd say you probably have a lot of youngsters both in Australia and possibly around the world that see you as a young trainer that's achieved a lot in a short period of time, even here in the UAE. What would you say to some of those youngsters that could be aspiring to get into racing, become a trainer, assistant trainer?
Well, it depends on what country they're from, and now I've been all around the world. The trainers all around the world have different hats they need to wear. So from the Australian market side of things, it would be definitely place yourself around the greatest trainers you can find to kick off. And then if you do take that leap and go out on your own, it's the simple thing is getting the greatest horses you can into the barn. And once you've done that, is trying to find a way to add as much value to your client database as possible. That's probably got to be the main focus. And back to what we're doing as well is just find a way to feed the greatest way you can, and the best hay, the best feed, and do the basics extremely well. We're really excited about the two heading to World Cup night. They're both in great order. So they're two which have, they were horses here before. Bahal was, a low class horse, and he's come up to group quality. Muhib was sort of dropped off form before we got here, and he's come back as a very talented sprinter. So excited about him. But going back to this season, we've relatively got a younger stable with the yearlings coming through, and Maya tells what he did this year was exciting, and then we're excited again for the yearlings we've got in, well, now 2-year-olds that are in pre-training in the US, which will be coming over sort of mid this year.
Yeah. And then would you say during your time at Jebel Ali, I'd say coming over, what you probably thought you're coming to, and then when you entered and you actually started going here, was it much different in what you thought you were going to come to, and then when you were actually dropped into it? Because training for a high-profile individual, high-profile horses, I'd say it's very difficult to gauge going into a new culture, new country, what you're going to expect. Was it what you expected?
Yeah, we did our due diligence before we came, and we did ask the hard questions, but one of the main reasons was I came, we had a very good life and business in Australia, things were going great, so the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So I was very lucky that, and the reason why I did take the role was because Muhammad Al-Shehi is a fantastic operator, very good knowledge of racing, and has become a close friend as well. So it was having the management there to support you in a role like this. No matter how good the job was, if the management wasn't someone that you could work with and enjoy working with, then I wouldn't have taken the role. So that was very important. And also Sheikh Ahmed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, His Highness, has been just such a wonderful boss. Not just because of his generosity, but because of his racing knowledge, how welcome he was to me in it, being able to support me in the decisions I wanted to make, the changes I wanted to make. Yeah. So it's just been the management which has been the greatest thing. And I asked those questions before, so it hasn't been a surprise at all in any shape or form, and that's the most important thing. Anything else with the training, we can tweak and pivot as we go.
Yeah. It's one of the best owners to be training for, I would say, and I think you've come and turned around an operation, that has had years of legacy behind it. So he must be very pleased to have you, and like you've said as well, you've had some of the best management behind you as well to support you. So that's great.
Yes. It's look, if you're going to do a role like this, then the horses are just a mirror of their environment, so we've got to make sure that everyone's, the horses are happy, and that comes from filtering down from the top, and I've got to make sure His Highness is happy by getting results, and then we've got to make sure the staff and everyone around is happy, because that rubs off on the horses. Yeah. So I'm still quite new, and only 2 years, so whether I'm experienced enough to answer the question, I'm not sure. And here at Jebel Ali, I'm under a little bit of a rock. I don't see exactly what's going on, but I think that's all positive for the industry from what I can see. I think there's a shift to bringing new owners into the industry, which I'm starting to see. I'm starting to see that shift. Seeing this club, Jebel Ali, is really starting to redevelop and getting big crowds to the races, and looking at a new mindset of bringing new patrons as well. So those parts are exciting. And then personally, we want to, now we've gotten the stable back to a stage where we've gotten the recognition that the stable is a force to be reckoned with. Now it's time to really pull up the socks and get some horses which are going to travel internationally through the summer. So that'll be the next stage of what I want to do is take the horses from the UAE and take them around the world. And when the competitors around the world see the yellow and black colours, they'll respect the yellow and black colours coming.
Anything in particular going into the next season, coming to the end of the season, as to goals and your vision as to what you'd like to have, as say in the next year, 2 years?
I think for us the summer's even more as important as the training, because training we do what we do, and the most important thing is getting the greatest horses into the stable, because when you see the internationals come World Cup week and they do so well, you know, we've got with the support of His Highness, we've got to be finding the horses which are going to be winning World Cup night, but then travelling to win internationally as well. So the focus is solely on finding the greatest horses, and as I said before, having the UAE a force to be reckoned with internationally, not just here in Dubai.
Now, it'd be great to see you to continue to fly that flag and to see the yellow and black colours go forward internationally. And that's always been His Highness Sheikh Ahmed's dream, to basically continue having horses go out and race abroad. So wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.